To understand this story, we need to go back in time. In 2010, Boeing's biggest rival Airbus unexpectedly decided to upgrade their Airbus A320. It was a massive success. Airlines were rushing to buy it, passengers loved the new plane, and Boeing was being left behind. Obviously, Boeing had to do something in order to keep up with Airbus. Engineers did not know what they should do, create a whole entire new plane, or follow suit with Airbus. The A320neo was just an upgraded version of the older models of the A320, but with larger engines. It saves fuel consumption and money for airlines. Boeing engineers of course wanted to do the same on their single-aisle plane, the Boeing 737. However, this idea will turn from a success into a controversial cover-up. On October 29, 2018, a Boeing 737 MAX sits on a gate in Hata Airport in Indonesia. Boeing had made a new breakthrough. They somehow managed to compete against Airbus in the market, and the 737 MAX was the top-selling plane in the industry of commercial aviation. What could possibly go wrong? On board were 181 passengers and 8 crew members. The pilots flying the plane is Captain Zunejas and First Officer Harvino. The flight was set from Hata Airport to Pangkal Island, a flight that won't take long. A flight that was not long at all. At 6:18 a.m. local time, the plane lines up on the runway. Checklist completed and permission granted, they started to roll down the runway. First officer keeps an eye on the instruments, and the captain will be flying the aircraft. They proceed down normally till they reach 81 knots, where the flight data recorder actually shows something was wrong before they even took off. The captain's speed indicator was showing the plane was at 79 knots. However, the first officer's indicator shows the plane was at 81 knots. Something that truly feels chilling is that the left and right angle of attack had a 20-degree difference. However, the pilots were not alarmed. At their V1 speed, also known as their V-season speed, the first officer calls out "rotate," so the captain lifts the plane up. Immediately, there's trouble. The captain's yoke started to stick shaker, which tells the pilots that their plane was about to stall. Another warning called the takeoff config warning comes up, telling the pilot that the plane was not ready for takeoff. But the plane goes airborne without a problem. The pilots try to understand the problem but eventually sees nothing unusual. The 737 MAX 8 takes off and proceeds to climb on its final flight. In just a few seconds, the first officer now sees the airspeed differences on both monitors. He says airspeed disagree. The captain's indicator shows they were flying at 164 knots, but the right side showed 175 knots. Captain Zunejas does not know what to do in a situation like this. He gets so confused he left the first officer unanswered. Around a minute later, air traffic control tells the pilots to contact Terminal East controller to await their climb information. The controller is not told about the situation on board the cockpit. The pilots, instead of calling an emergency, ask the terminal controller about their speed and altitude information. The controller comes in with a complete different number. The plane was at 900 feet, but the co-pilot and captain screen showed 1040 feet and 790 feet. After this information, there was still no mayday call from the cockpit. They only asked to do a holding pattern around the airport, saying they had a flight instrument problem. That was nothing like a mayday call. Air traffic control tells the pilots to climb the 27,000 feet for their holding pattern. The plane turns left and the first officer retracts the flaps. Flaps are simple. Retract the flaps so you get a better airflow. Extend them to increase the airflow to slow down the plane. But for an unexpected reason, retracting the flaps caused the plane to suddenly nose down. The plane drops down at 3,200 feet per minute. The captain pulls the plane up and re-establishes their climb. The first officer pulls the flaps from 5 degrees to 1 degrees. They ask air traffic control for the instrument information one more time and continues their climb. Just 1 minute later, the plane starts to nose down 6 different times and is making the plane incredibly hard to control. At 3,000 feet, the plane nosed down even harder than before, and the plane is incredibly hard to control. At 5,000 feet, the nose downs became more dramatic. At one occurrence, the plane lunged from 5,000 to 4,000 in just 5 seconds. The air traffic control asked the pilots what is happening. They said they are fully confused, but just after that radar communication, the plane sinks down to the ocean below. The pilots forcefully tries to pull up their plane, but to no results. The crash site was located just 30 minutes after it fell from the sky. Investigators were trying to piece together what had happened. They of course knew something was wrong with the plane's flight computers. However, the truth was something they did not expect. Going back to the 737 MAX, the engines were larger and more fuel efficient, saving airlines a lot of money. But take a look at the 737 and the A320's height from the ground. The A320 is higher and can fit a bigger engine without any problems. The 737 is however shorter. So Boeing engineers came up with a plan. They would move their engines above the plane's wings. However, this design had a side effect. Taking off at full thrust can cause the plane to stall. But instead of re-engineering the plane, the programmers at Boeing created a system that will push the nose down whenever it's at a steep angle. But it was not only the problem. Lion Air did not have a good maintenance record. Lion Air 610 took off with a damaged angle of attack sensors, triggering the program, also known for its name, the MCAS. It was a shock. Boeing chose money over safety, and the crash of Lion Air 610 was caused by human error. For this, the FAA had to ground the MAX for a few months. It was a complete twist when the FAA had to certify the plane to fly again. Although Boeing had started a better training to deal with MCAS, it won't change the public's view on Boeing and the heartbroken families of the victims of Lion Air 610.